Let me share a truth that few people ever voice aloud. Falling apart doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it appears as stillness. Sometimes it sounds like a laugh that's a bit too loud. Sometimes it's tucked inside the phrase, "I'm okay," when you are actually far from it. Yet the odd part about an internal collapse is how few people witness it. It happens almost secretly, yet to the person experiencing it, the sensation is like the earth giving way. Picture this. Someone grins at you from the sidewalk, gives a friendly wave, maybe tells a humorous story. But what if you knew that right then, their inner life feels like a structure falling in on itself? That is the contradiction of breaking within. It's silent externally, but a roaring storm inside. This is where psychology helps clarify a rarely discussed experience. Our minds are designed for self-preservation. We build barriers, methods for coping, personas. We create iterations of ourselves that appear resilient, put together, unaffected. But behind that facade, stress accumulates, each feeling left unexpressed, each hope quietly released, each letdown tucked away, adds another layer of pressure. When that pressure hits a limit, something in the psyche quietly fractures. In psychology, this is known as emotional dissonance. When the outer expression clashes with the inner reality, and it is one of the most exhausting conditions a person can endure. But here is the poignant and compelling reality. An internal break rarely stems from one large disaster. More commonly, it's the result of accumulated small moments. The message you hoped for that never arrived. The sorry you needed, but never heard. The commitment you upheld when others forgot. Small, repeated hairline cracks in the spirit, until one day you realize you feel like a stranger to yourself. This is where the narrative grows more complex. Because when people break inside, they don't always fall down. Many continue to operate. They attend their job. They share laughter around the table. They send messages, share updates, maintain the rhythm of life. Yet psychology reveals something striking here. The masking effect. This occurs when people repress their genuine feelings, not only from others, but from their own awareness. They persuade themselves they are all right, until the disguise grows so burdensome it seems unmanageable. You might ask, why does the psyche operate this way? Why not simply reveal what we feel? The explanation is found in what psychologists term social conditioning. From a young age, many are instructed to maintain composure. Don't weep where others can see. Don't show fragility. Don't allow anyone to witness your battles. And though this training helps us operate in the world, it also instructs us to disconnect from parts of who we are. We exchange realness for approval. Gradually, without noticing, we lose the vocabulary to articulate our true emotion. That is why breaking inside often feels so isolating. It isn't that others are indifferent. It's that they are entirely unaware. But consider this. Have you ever found that after suppressing emotion for too long, even minor kindnesses make you emotional? A simple gesture or a song you hear by chance. That isn't a flaw, it's emotional spillover. The psyche can only contain so much unexpressed hurt before it overflows into unrelated parts of your day. And here is the pivotal point. Those overflows are messages. Messages that the internal rupture is nearing the surface, asking for attention, asking to be felt. Now let's circle back. You might wonder, if breaking inside is so quiet, how can we identify it? How can we tell when we or someone we care about is living through it? Keep that question in mind. First, we must examine something even more intriguing. Why the breaking can sometimes become the very catalyst for change. Here is the paradox. Breaking inwardly is painful, yet it also uncovers. It reveals what you have been evading. Psychology refers to this as the rupture and repair cycle. In emotional healing, it suggests that moments of internal disruption, when faced with honesty, can create stronger self-awareness. The same idea applies to our inner world. The break indicates where we have been overburdened, where we have ignored our own needs. The discomfort is data. It's your psyche signaling that a shift is necessary. Reflect on this. When a bone fractures, it is set so it can mend even stronger. The same can be true for the inner self. Breaking doesn't mean you are fragile. It means your previous strategy for managing your world has become inadequate. It means the framework you built has met its capacity. And though that is frightening, it is also the precise instant when something new may be constructed. But there is a condition. Only if we notice, only if we choose to hear the break, instead of concealing it. Let's return to that earlier question. How do we detect the signals of breaking inside? Psychology provides hints: a sudden lack of interest in former passions, a lingering feeling of hollowness, annoyance that feels disproportionate, difficulty resting, or conversely, resting too much. Small indicators, but together they form a portrait. If you see yourself in any of these, stop, breathe. It doesn't mean you are permanently damaged. It means your inner self is requesting pause, truth, relief. But here is the deeper layer many overlook. Breaking inside frequently masquerades as fortitude. Yes, that's correct. The individual who claims, "I don't need help," might be the very person longing for support the most. The one who is most animated in a group might be the most subdued in solitude. This is known as reaction formation, a protective strategy where people display the opposite of their true feelings to guard their vulnerability. Once you recognize this pattern, you'll see it all around: the cheerful expression, the constant humor, the collected exterior. Sometimes these are not displays of happiness. They are armor for survival. Now here is the turning point. If you grasp this, if you truly perceive it, then breaking inside transforms from a silent trap into a form of communication. It is your deeper self attempting to speak through vulnerabilities and shadows. What it is saying is this: you don't have to be flawless. You don't have to manage everything constantly. You require room to be real. But before we continue, consider one final thought. What if breaking inside isn't the conclusion of strength, but the origin of it? What if the fractures are not defects, but places where understanding can enter? Remember that, because in the next segment we will explore how psychology describes the unique and potent process of rebuilding after the break, and why those who have been broken often hold a perspective, an insight, and a resilience that cannot be gained any other way. So let's examine what occurs after the break. Here is something many don't recognize. Breaking inside does not have to conclude in hopelessness. In fact, psychology demonstrates that these moments of internal rupture can be reshaping. They compel the psyche and emotions to face what has been ignored. This confrontation is uneasy, yes, even frightening. But it is also where the foundations of resilience are laid. Imagine a forest tree during a gale. The wind twists it, at times almost breaking its limbs. Yet after the weather calms, the tree has frequently established a stronger anchor, a deeper bond with the soil. Breaking inside is the gale, and your mind, your heart, your core self, they are the tree. And the fractures, they are not only wounds, they are opportunities. Opportunities to evolve, to change, to rebuild with intention. One of the most compelling ideas in psychology is termed post-traumatic growth. It's the concept that when a person goes through a significant internal battle, if they move through it with awareness, they do not simply go back to who they were. They transform. They grow more compassionate, more reflective, more able to form meaningful bonds. That is exactly why those who have felt deeply broken often carry an insight that others might not reach. Their perception of human feeling, their attunement to subtle distress, becomes a form of strength, built not from ignoring pain, but from enduring, observing and weaving the break into their being. But here we must be careful. This is not about simple solutions or empty phrases. Breaking inside is not a hurdle to jump over. It is a journey. The initial stage is acknowledgement, naming it, accepting it. Many attempt to escape, to fill the void with activity, busyness, or constant stimulation. But the instant you cease fleeing, the instant you let yourself experience what is occurring, is when the mind starts to recalibrate. This is what psychologists name emotional processing. Emotional processing doesn't require public displays or telling everyone your business. It means allowing yourself to fully sit with the feeling, in private or with a trusted person, writing about it, contemplating, recognizing the causes, the origins, and the habits. It is gradual, at times difficult, but it is also deeply freeing. And here is a key finding. The human brain is innately equipped for emotional recovery, given time, reflection, and appropriate support. Neuroscience reveals that the same neural circuits that record distress can, through mindful attention and repetition, rewire into channels for insight, compassion, and resilience. Now, consider this reflective loop. Why is it that when we break inside, our connections with others often feel fragile? Why do loved ones sometimes misread our quietness, our shifts in mood, or our need for space? The answer rests in a phenomenon called emotional contagion. People naturally reflect the emotions of those close to them, to react to signals, to align with unspoken cues. When someone breaks inside quietly, the signals can be unclear, confusion develops, strain increases, and without clear communication, relationships can weaken. But when we understand this, we can learn to express ourselves more clearly, not by detailing every thought, but by indicating, I am working through something internally, and I need patience and grace. That alone can shift a relationship from misunderstanding to support. Here is another notable psychological observation. Those who break inside profoundly often cultivate what is termed heightened emotional granularity. This is the skill of detecting fine distinctions between feelings. It's not simply sadness or frustration. It's the quiet sorrow of missing a presence before you know they're absent. It's the simmering irritation of unmet hopes. It's the layered blend of memory and desire. Emotional granularity lets a person engage with life with subtlety and insight, to perceive the full range of emotion rather than only the peaks. And that skill, forged in breaking, becomes a quiet gift, a perspective through which life is lived more completely, more genuinely. But we should not idealize the journey. Breaking inside is solitary, and it can seem unending. There will be days when the load feels too heavy, when progress seems to reverse itself, and that is valid. It is part of being human. Yet here is the essential psychological shift that alters the course. Integration. Integration is the practice of taking the hurt, the rupture, the inner turmoil, and braiding it into your life story, rather than resisting it. When you integrate, you do not delete the breaking. You respect it, you recognize it, you permit it to become a chapter in your narrative, rather than allowing it to dictate your ending. Now, hold this image. Imagine gazing into a looking glass, not only to see your face, but to see the invisible lines of experience, the hidden fractures that have molded your endurance, your compassion, your insight. Most people avoid that gaze, but when we courageously meet it, we start to find meaning where once there was only ache. Psychology calls this meaning making. It's the method by which we assign sense, purpose, and story to events that otherwise feel random and chaotic. And meaning making is the pathway from breaking to rebuilding, from quiet pain to purposeful evolution. Let's go further still. There is a practice known as self-compassion, which research identifies as one of the most effective responses to internal collapse. Self-compassion isn't self-pity. It isn't inaction. It is the practice of offering yourself the same care, tolerance, and empathy you would offer a dear friend. It is stating, it's understandable that I am in pain. It's acceptable that I feel fractured. This does not reduce my worth. It confirms my humanity. Brain studies show that self-compassion triggers areas of the brain linked to comfort and belonging, lessening the mental and physical effects of strain. In essence, it trains the mind to cradle itself tenderly as it recovers. Now, here is an interesting reversal. Breaking inside often sparks creativity. Artists, authors, musicians, innovators, so many have described the mysterious process of sorrow transforming into art. When a person is fractured, they perceive the world in a new light. They detect nuances others overlook. They experience feelings with sharpness and intensity. This is why poetry, melody, and visual art often connect most deeply when it reflects the raw, unvoiced truths of human experience. And that is the fascinating psychology behind it. Breaking is painful, yet it refines perception. It hones the capacity to understand, to relate, to make something new. And here is the last reflective point before we conclude. The most profound realization of all. Breaking inside shows us that nothing is permanent. All states shift. Delight, sorrow, mourning, contentment. Everything moves, everything changes. When we break, we catch a glimpse of life's delicacy, and with that glimpse comes perspective. We start to treasure the passing instances, to find the extraordinary in the everyday, to approach people with kindness and space. This knowledge doesn't remove the hardship, but it transfigures it into something meaningful, something deeply human. So what remains after all of this? Breaking inside is not a defeat, it is an alert, it is a guide. It is a transition through which the human spirit can learn, deepen, and expand. And the remarkable aspect of this journey is its universality. Every person holds the possibility for fracture. Every person holds the possibility for renewal. The variation lies in whether we honor the break, hear its lesson, and permit ourselves to be reshaped by it. Let me end with a reflection to hold. The fissures in your spirit, the quiet breaks, the concealed sorrow, they are not inadequacies. They are the blueprint of the person you are growing into. They are proof that you have endured, that you have cared deeply, that you have existed. And if you care for these fractures with attention, compassion, and bravery, you might find something remarkable, that the intensity of your pain becomes the richness of your understanding, that the silent breaks within can nurture the most genuine, resilient self you will ever become. And in that place, in that tender, uncertain, extraordinary space between what was fractured and what is whole, you understand something fundamentally human. To break inside is not to cease. It is to start anew, with more wisdom, more kindness, and more vitality than you ever knew possible.